Ladies and gentlemen, today I present to you one of the greatest normicons in history. The man who thinks of himself as the ultimate edgelord, but cucks to every single topic imaginable, from LGBT to immigration. I present to you Hunter Avallone. The guy has made one of the worst videos on race and IQ that I could possibly imagine, and it's time for me to debunk everything point by point. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, there's going to be something a little different compared to my other videos. I'm going to be a little more chill and laid back on this one, so I'm just going to have my fun debunking him.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. By the end of today's video, I hope to have earned my N-word pass. Today I'm talking about a rather spooky subject. It's a subject that, despite being debunked repeatedly, has yet again made a comeback.
Debunked over and over again. Citation needed.
Of course, I am talking about the very controversial topic of race science.
Also known as race realism, human biodiversity, and believing in evolution.
Race scientists claim there are evolutionary bases for disparities in social outcomes, such as life expectancy, educational attainment, wealth, and incarceration rates between racial groups. In particular, many of them argue that black people fare worse than white people because they tend to be less naturally intelligent.
Look at the twin studies. Those have shown that IQ is at least 80% heritable. And also, when it comes to skin color, there's quite a bit of data that shows intelligence and admixture are correlated.
Yeah, that's right. There's actually a group of people stupid enough to believe that black people have a lower IQ because, and only because, they are black.
Strawman alert. IQ is 80% genetic and 20% environmental, because that's pretty much the mainstream hereditarian viewpoint.
More recently, the book The Bell Curve, published in 1994, resulted in the American Psychological Association releasing a statement admitting that there is a difference in IQ between blacks and whites with no seeming explanation.
On the topic of black and white IQ differences, I really don't want to repeat the same thing I did in my previous video, so here's a clip of that. For example, Shuey 1966 in the testing of the Negro intelligence reported on 382 studies involving 80 different tests administered on hundreds and thousands of black and white children, high school and college students, military personnel, civilian adults, deviates, and criminals. The average black IQ score in these studies were a bit below 85, and the average for whites was also a bit above 100. The average black-white difference was always close to a standard deviation. Richard Lynn reviewed the overall literature on the black-white IQ gap in the US. In all the studies, Lynn reviewed on American blacks, they averaged an IQ of 85. Rushton and Jensen 2005 note, quote, currently the 1.1 standard deviation difference in average IQ between blacks and whites in the United States is not in itself a matter of empirical dispute. A meta-analytic review by Roth, Bevier, Bobko, Switzer, and Tyler 2001 showed that it also holds for college and university application tests such as the SATs and the GREs, as well as for tests for job applicants in corporate settings and in the military.
What has modern science and analysis found in response to the objective truth that blacks do score lower on intelligence tests than whites?
There have been God knows how many books on this matter. There's Why Race Matters, there's Race Evolution and Behavior, there's Race Differences in Intelligence. Just read any of those. You'll get the explanation easily.
The biggest thing to understand in this debate is it is immensely difficult to prove causation from correlation. There is a correlation between lower IQ and blacks, but that in no way means that the reason for this disparity is because these people are black.
You are kinda right. Correlation does not equal causation. But you know who else agrees with you? The race realists that you're trying oh so hard to debunk. So congrats, you actually agree with them on something.
Another important distinction to make is that IQ tests are only an estimate of intelligence. The goal for these tests is to measure what is known as the G factor, or general intelligence. This is the type of intelligence that ideally has no change regardless of any environmental stimuli such as education or training. This way, the results of these tests would seem to measure the tester's innate ability. The existence of general intelligence, however, is highly debated in academic spheres.
That statement is nothing but bullshit. There's zero data that shows that.
But even if there is such a thing, many psychometricians argue that IQ tests do not adequately measure it. They argue these tests measure a limited manifestation of innate ability, and that prior exposure to a certain type of processing and cognitive habits would need to be had to perform well.
I honestly couldn't care less about consensus. Just look at the correlates yourself and find out for yourself.
Different cultures value different types of intelligence, and assuming there is one test to equate all of these manifestations seems to be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Intelligence means different things in different cultures. Just bring out the stock arguments already. According to Warren and Birmingham 2018, there's a strong case to be made that the G factor is universally recognized.
What is race specifically? Most anthropologists believe that race is only socio-political and not biological.
Believe it or not, there are quite a few factors we can use to determine someone's race. A few notable examples include brain size, skull size, bone density, etc.
So even if black people do score lower on IQ tests, it doesn't really prove anything. It certainly doesn't dictate humanity or intelligence.
Actually, it does indicate quite a bit of things. Look at the predictive validity of IQ, after all.
So far, all we've really learned is that the alt-right morons peddling this nonsense appear to be 3/5 human of a vote.
Attention, Hunter. Poisoning the well. That is all.
If race is unlikely to be the cause of differences in IQ, what have studies found?
And now what he proceeds to do in the video is list off a bunch of environmental factors. It's honestly too much work for me to debunk all of these point by point, so I'm just going to look at his studies and debunk those.
Studies such as Campbell and Rami from 1994 show that black children who, from a young age, have received good academic experiences as well as academic success have substantially higher IQs than those who had not received such intervention.
Yeah, that doesn't really close the IQ gap now, does it? According to Herrnstein and Murray in 1994, the bell curve, I highly doubt you've actually read the damn thing, the IQ score does go up, but it doesn't close the black-white IQ gap.
Another finding was that when black people and white people were exposed together to the same types of critical thinking habits, they performed the same on IQ tests.
Hunter then cites Fagan and Hall in 2002 to show that knowledge is responsible for racial differences in IQ scores. But he made one grave error. The actual study did not give an IQ test, so basically the study poses no threat to racial differences in IQ.
The last environmental factor that is affecting the gap is that of socioeconomic environment. While this does not account for the entire gap, socioeconomic status definitely accounts for some of it. One 2015 study suggests family income, maternal education, maternal verbal ability/knowledge, learning materials in the home, parenting factors, and safe physical environment account for a large portion of the black-white gap in cognitive ability test score.
Hunter then cites Cortrell 2015. There are strong reasons to cast doubt on this study. This was just a hypothetical study. It wasn't done on real people. Beaver et al. 2014 found that parenting factors are not significant variables in IQ scores. Family income doesn't close the black-white IQ gap even after SES is controlled for. And the rest can be found in Rush and Jensen 2005.
In 1961, a study tracked out-of-wedlock children of black and white soldiers stationed in Germany after World War II and then raised by white German mothers. The study found no significant difference in average IQ between groups.
The problem with this study, of course, is that the children were very young, and there were no follow-up studies done. This matters because of the Wilson effect, which dictates that the heritability of IQ increases with age. So only testing kids at a young age may mask genetic effects. Also, 20 to 25% of black fathers in the study were French North Africans, in other words, Caucasians. This shows why the mixed kids had a higher IQ.
According to another study on black, white, and mixed-race children raised in British long-stay residential nurseries found 2 out of 3 tests found no significant difference. One test found higher scores for non-whites. A third study found that adopted mixed or black children being raised in white households had substantially higher IQ compared to those raised in black households.
The final study he cites to support his statement is Tizard 1972. It's quite evident that he hasn't read it yet, because he didn't look into the methodology. He just cited the conclusion. So then, here's a lengthy rebuttal from Chuck 2011.
Only one study involving adoption from 1976, called the Minnesota Transracial Adoption Study, found higher IQ for white adopted children compared to blacks, but those conducting the study, Scar and Weinberg, did not even find that the results suggest that the difference was genetic.
Scar and Weinberg said that they should be agnostic on the conclusions. But there are quite a lot of twin studies that show that IQ is genetic.
So what have we learned? Well, black people do have a lower IQ statistically, but it's due to a plethora of reasons unrelated to race. Even more so, IQ doesn't really mean much, and it's certainly not grounds for determining innate intelligence.
A big reason as to why IQ matters is because racial inequality in the US can partially be explained by IQ differences. The racial wealth gap and incarceration data, to name a few examples.
Black people are people, equal to everyone else, even when it comes to innate intelligence. And that's the truth about black people.
Anyway, that's the video. But before I finish, I'd like to say a few things. Firstly, I'd like to thank Radical Statistica for letting me use their article for my video. Be sure to check out their Instagram and WordPress accounts. They're quite good. The last thing I'd like to say is a message to Hunter Avallone himself. Listen, I've got nothing against you. Your arguments are just shit-lipped here. Anyway, on that note, if you ever want to debate me, then feel free to contact me on Instagram. But knowing you and how you cucked out of debates with Nick Fuentes and other people, I highly doubt that's gonna happen. But still, it's always nice to hope.